5. This is What is HOA? What is HOA is brought to you by Zayuk. Zayuk is a property technology company that provides both inspection services and software for homeowner associations in the United States. Homeowner associations annually have reserve study inspections of various types, and in those reserve study inspections, you document the hygiene of your assets and contrast the hygiene that you've documented against the amount of capital you have in your reserves account. And that contrast will tell you if you are properly funded for the end of life of your assets across the next 30 years. And often properties are not ready for those items to hit. Many times they can be uninformed, and there are many stakeholders involved when that occurs, and the stakeholders become distressed or aren't able to do their work because there isn't enough capital within the property to actually take on that work. And you see some pretty negligent behavior occurring when that capital isn't accumulated over decades, and then all of a sudden some structural integrity issue comes about and it causes a special assessment, or even worse, an accident, which is much worse, but often a special assessment. So in What is HOA, we often go over current events within the industry. One issue or one thing that occurred that's pretty headline in the news is that Mila Kunis is the head of her homeowner association, that she is the star of that 70s show in Beverly Hills neighborhood, 8 household neighborhood. So it's a fairly small HOA, and smaller HOAs actually have a lot of liability, because when you own one condo, say there's some sort of issue that occurs within that homeowner association, that cost is going to be split across 8 members of the association, where if you are a 100+ member association with 100+ units, then your share is likely going to be a lot lower of any sort of structural integrity issue that might arise. There might be more, but often you still allocate that across a lot more members, and it's a significantly less portion, which is why that shared ownership model is ubiquitous across the world. People want to own where they live, and often in some of the locations they want to live, that's not possible in a single family household. So having a condo, living within a property association, is ubiquitous across the world. And there's different laws and there's different nomenclature for it, but the basics of taking collections in from various members, distributing those collections amongst vendors to maintain the property is fairly, again, ubiquitous. Said her neighbors are desensitized and unfazed that a Hollywood celebrity runs their HOA. When I look at the road because it's eroding, then they show up and start laughing like, I know this is ridiculous, but give me a quote. So again, yeah, give her a quote. It's interesting. And it shows you the ubiquity around this. People want to own their home. They want to own real estate. And even celebrities can't get away from the shared ownership model, the homeowner association model. Okay, so here in Florida, a Florida law proposal could end dysfunctional Florida HOAs and push for accountability. Years complaining that Florida law makes it impossible to hold their HOA board accountable. A new proposal by a South Florida Republican would tip the scales back in their favor. HB 657, biggest overhaul of HOA laws in the Sunshine State in years, would remove many requirements from homeowners to seek mediation before suing, which homeowners complain is burdensome, opaque, and favors the HOA. The proposal creates a streamlined community association court program, which would be dedicated wing of the circuit to oversee HOA disputes. would require HOAs to standardize their governing documents and update those documents yearly in a public meeting. If homeowners decide their HOA is dysfunctional or is actively working against their interests, the bill would let them vote to dissolve their HOA entirely. This is a very extreme bill. 2/3 of the community supports dissolution. The board would then transfer power to a trustee or oversee the dismantling of the HOA. Floridians have been asking for real reform, already creating questions. How do amenities get paid? It's a very cumbersome idea. Force the sale or destruction of community assets or require them to be sold equally to homeowners. Roads, retention ponds, pools does require communities to keep up with a dissolution plan. So this seems like it's not realistic at all. Unfortunately, there's assets. I mean, how do you maintain a roofing issue, a foundation issue in a building that has possibly 100 people in it? Obviously, you need some sort of corporation or some sort of body to be able to take in collections, to distribute those collections amongst vendors, and do it in a way that's ethical, and not just ethical but effective, because often it's not an issue of morality. It's sometimes it is, sometimes there are people blatantly stealing and taking, but even more frequent is that it is people that are not competent in construction, not competent in business, not competent in vendor management. And Zayu gives you the platform gives your property a platform to be autonomous and to manage the finances, its assets, its contracts, and to give you oversight that provides property owners the leverage that they need. Okay. And that leverage is often just simple communications, comms between everyone. One Germantown, Maryland family has gotten hundreds of dollars in fines because of Christmas decorations that violate nuisance rules. Nutcracker statues, lights, nativity scene, but these decorations landing them on the naughty list of their HOA, Middlebrook Manor South Homeowners Association. Lawyers representing the HOA sent the Salgado family a letter informing them they are in violation of the nuisance rules, and they have been fined $50 per day. And here in California, we cap fines at $100, and the fines have added up to $650 and counting. Neighbors say they're not being they are saying they're not being a nuisance, and other neighbors have not received any violations. And the news stream actually reached out to that HOA and they haven't responded. That's very stressful for a homeowner association. You're just trying to make the community run, and then all of a sudden you have a newscast coming and asking you questions like that. Most people are not looking to do something like that. Here we go. This is interesting. Home builders boost HOA communities as amenities become key selling point. Reveal more single-family homes are being built within community or homeowners associations. New single-family homes started in 2024, 65.7% were built within a community or HOA, representing 651,000 homes. 15 years ago, that was just 47.6% constructed within an HOA, which is an 18.1% jump. Trend among new homes as builders want to offer communal amenities like pools, security services, and common spaces that make their homes more desirable. Cost-effective way to offer amenities in bulk to the community as a whole. They are cost effective, and they, at the root of them, are well designed. The issue is that the technology, and there's a lot of places stakeholders can take advantage of the property, and that's when no one owns something. When everyone owns something, no one owns something. So the Pacific has about 58% HOAs, the mountains 81, South Central 70, North Central 54, East Midwest 50%, South Atlantic 74, Mid Atlantic 33, New England 35%, and the South 48%. All right. So we've spoken about gas or property management multiple times on this podcast. They are a property management company that had been accused. Let's just read this. All right. So between 22 August, Davidson Company residents speak out. Residents reach out to NC5 News Channel 5 Amanda Roberts alleging gas or property management possible fraud and lapse in insurance policies. First-time homebuyer NC5 on 29 August left uninsured. Community was left uninsured. NC5 reaches out to Davidson Company. Licenses for gasser. Mount Juliet resident reaches out to NC5, which is the news channel. A resident in Hickory Hills reached out to flag financial discrepancies. And this is why financial discrepancies is why it's important to have a tool that goes directly to your accounts. Because if you get reports that are paper-based, that are Excel-based, you don't actually know what is in your account at one day. And you have that right to own that. And if a property, frankly, property management company doesn't allow that, that's a red flag. And having a tool that gives homeowners the leverage that homeowners should have is powerful in and of itself, which is what Zayuk does. Oh, wow. I guess Kumar Patel uses Whip. I haven't heard of Whip. Yeah, still haven't heard of it. All right, so we'll move on. So gas property management in September was reached out. Will Company copies of licenses. 10th of September, Mount Juliet Police confirms investigation into the property management company. September 17th, couple that spent 7 years seeking answers. Hoped attending board meetings would provide transparency, but met with stonewalling and deception. Keep searching for answers from missing funds. A wellness check was initiated on 19th September for Gasser, for the president of Region Homes, at the time the builder of for Gasser Properties. Finally made contact with Gasser, who admitted to being in serious financial trouble. Remains unanswered by Gasser. On 23rd September, calls from NC5. Residents speak out on 23rd September. discovering their insurance policy expired months ago and their homes were not covered. Gasser home residence in Smyrna sells at auction for $400K at the end of September. Local police departments investigate claims against Gasser. Brentwood police confirm investigation on 8th October. Residents speak out on 14th October, missing $50,000 more than. 14th October, Metro Nashville also confirm investigation. Missing HOAs in Fountain Brook. On 15th October, hundreds of thousands missing from HOA counts as Tennessee communities call for stronger property management regulation. 17th October, another wellness check for Emery Gasser. 28th October, HOA fraud put residents with cancer at risk. Scrambling after $78K missing from her HOA's accounts, considering a special assessment. November, facing $300 a month assessment. December, asked in October if TBI was aware of the allegations, would require respective district attorney. And December 9, state representative working on bipartisan legislation to regulate property managers as investigations into Gasser continue. The way to regulate it is to give yourselves the tools to understand your the dollars in your bank account and to have direct access to that number. Maybe not direct access to transferring funds, but direct access to the funds account is extremely insightful. Very interesting. A home builder could see $2.2 million duplex he constructed in a gated community come crashing down, even though 2 tenants already moved in. Order comes from judge ruling on dispute between builder, who owns the land, and the HOA that sets the rules. The harm is self-inflicted, quote unquote, and due to the continued construction of the duplex despite an HOA conflict that questioned its compliance with zoning rules. Obvious it was not in compliance, said the HOA president, and they contacted the builder and asked to meet on site. But the builder sees differently and plans to appeal in defense of Indiana property owners. Stems from the fact the Water's Edge HOA rules required 15 feet between homes. And we saw this in Virginia as well, but that was actually a citywide zoning ordinance. Rules eventually changed to add 5 extra feet between homes and any structure to be built at least 15 feet from the property line. Began building the duplex to the original property specifications. As a result, the judge said the builder and his company violated the HOA rules by not getting approval from the architectural committee prior to the start of construction. Continued construction after the intervention when footings were installed and despite the ongoing civil case. This HOA was then sued, risked very costly remediation. Explained the rules exist for the protection of the present and future owners, and that allowing a violation of those rules would render the purpose of those governing documents mute. Paying more than $70,000 in fees, as well as an estimated $1.5 million cost of demolishing the duplex and the expense of relocating the tenants who live in the duplex. Dang. And it's really important to understand this, because you come to a property and you think it's yours to do as you like, and unfortunately that's not always the case when you have an HOA, and you're set under a specific set of rules that are predefined, and you can't really redefine those rules. It's really important to just understand where your liability is held. Don't use your own interpretation of the rules. None of this is legal advice. Get professional counsel from someone within your area, your district, your state. All right, we'll move on. Actually, you know what, guys, we're gonna take a break. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully you're all having a great day.